Well, good morning, good afternoon. I'm not sure where you're at in your day. I'm glad you're here. Just briefly, my name's Meg. I'm a senior at NKU, Cybersecurity. And I'm also the WESIS chapter president at our school. And that's actually how I met Simi through a WESIS forum board there. So that's how we connected. And so I'll just tell you a little bit about our presenters. So Simi Basu, she's a Scrum Master and she's cybersecurity certified. And she'll be working with Dr. Carletta Stewart, who works with the Girls Persist program. And I'm just going to post their bios in here because I feel like they could, that says more than what I'm saying. So it'll give me a minute because I can only do a little bit at a time. So I'll go ahead and pass it to you guys and ready to go.
All right, thank you, Megan. And thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to share my presentation here so we can get started. So give me 1 second. So today's workshop is going to be about Scrum, a little bit about cybersecurity and along with leadership. So we have, and I know we have 1.5 hours to do it. It will be a really interactive session today, wherein you would be put into breakout rooms, you will be working in groups and then coming back and presenting something as well. So we all will be working together today. Let me go in the present mode here so you guys can see better. So the agenda for today, I quickly want to go over that. So I and Dr. Stewart would be giving a quick introduction about ourselves. And then Dr. Stewart would be talking about leadership and project management. And then I'll be talking about Agile Scrum methodologies to strengthen cybersecurity. We will be talking a little bit about different team roles, and each person gets to pick a role today. We will be presenting you with a problem that as a group we will try to solve it together. So teams will be collaborating together in breakout rooms, and then they will be sharing their findings after they come back from the rooms. We'll also be walking through the process, what happened in the breakout room, and then we will close with any comments or questions. Anyone has any questions before we get started on this? All right, so I will quickly start with my introduction first. Hi, I am Simi Basu, and I work at STEM School Highlands Ranch in Colorado. This is my fifth year at the school, and I work as a computer science teacher. I am also a cybersecurity coach. Also, next year, I'm planning to develop a curriculum from K to 12 for cybersecurity in our school. I'm also a Scrum master. So before joining STEM, I have worked with IBM for 14 years. And one of my roles there was working as a Scrum master. So I have worked in real development projects where we have followed Scrum methodologies, we have done Scrum management as well. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. Dr. Carletta, I'll switch it to you. So if you want to introduce yourself, and then we can get started with your slides.
Sure. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, wherever you may be, the time. Just a little bit about myself. I am retired military as well. I served over 21 years in the military, information technology, project management, and leadership and development. So over those 21 years, really, it helped me not only just understanding my job as far as the technical abilities, but also understanding what that leadership aspect was and how important it was, because not only are we required, especially in the military, that you lead in yourself. That's the first obstacle as far as being a leader, but really understanding how do we move teams, move organizations, not only from within the United States but outside the country. So over the span of 21 years until today, I've been able to lead organizations not only to Afghanistan, Iraq, develop leadership academies, helped to develop leadership academies in Mongolia, worked at the Leadership Academy here in Colorado, down in Colorado Springs, and then also in Alaska as well. So part of that leadership framework that I'll discuss in my presentation, really kind of understanding what that small team aspect looked like and developing that framework over time. And then how do you move an organization forward? And one of my last assignments I worked in was the Space Command here in Colorado as well. So when you kind of put in that association of being proficient at a task, and then as well as how do you lead a team, not only the impact that you're making internally, but externally as well. So that really kind of helped me develop my own company, which we really promote the evidence-based STEM leadership applications, and it's really geared toward girls and women. And I've been able to develop men as well. It's not just, but that was the specific initially when the organization started, to really understand how to develop that proficiency in girls as far as those hands-on applications, and then saying, how do I lead a group and become that STEM professional?
All right, I'm going to get started with your slides. Let me know when you want me to switch slides.
Sure. So the first slide really talks about what is leadership and project management. Is it really that complex? And what I'm not going to do is really overcomplicate my presentation, because really it's really developing your framework. Okay, next slide, please. Good. Oh, there you go. So what I put the definition of leadership, the process of social influence, which maximizes the efforts of others towards the achievement of a goal. And project management is application of processes, methods, skills, knowledge, and experience to achieve a specific project. Objectives according to the project, acceptance criteria within agreed parameters. So you probably asking, well, how does leadership and project management, how do you associate the two? And when you look at leadership, because a lot of times what we do, we overcomplicate the process. Leadership, sometimes we think of leadership of someone in one of those leading roles, somebody that's taking charge of an organization, somebody with a title, somebody that has the CEO or CFO or COO behind their name. So, but when you look at leadership and project management, I really go down, because I've done the research with CU as well. When you kind of develop your project and understand how to lead it, is really saying, okay, let's go and develop, what is the conceptual framework? What is that idea behind it? Because the next slide, Simi. So leadership and project really is an archive of information, how to problem solve, how to frame ideas, and how to deliver outcomes. So when I look at understanding leadership and project management, what are those variables? What are those constructs? What is that framework? Because really you going in really with a blank canvas. Because I from years, I'll be honest with you, not really learning the process of really understanding how leadership evolve over time when it project management, saying, okay, let me start with a blank canvas to see, can kind of go in there, because what you don't want to do is have your own bias as far as predetermined outcomes of that project. Next slide, please. So the first idea, now be mindful, everybody will have the idea of what leadership and project management. This is just my experience of understanding, not only from working with the government, for over 21 years, and then now working within the industry. The first thing, when I said the blank canvas, is really eliminating prescriptive ideas. That means predetermined outcomes. When you building a project, a lot of times what we do is we put walls up, those barriers. So we've already have an idea of what the outcome should look like. So really you take the walls down, take the outcomes, you going in there, you kind of really trying to uncover and allowing that idea or the project to emerge on its own. So the next one, be aware of personal biases. We all have biases of what something should look like, or my idea, because I have this experience. And that's why it's so good with project management. You have a group of people with different experiences, not only different experiences when it comes to age, gender, professional experiences, field training, because all these ideas, you say, oh, okay, wow, I didn't think of it that way. Because some of you that's really want to go into the government, your idea of saying, working for the government, probably saying, man, I'm going to be doing this and I'm going to do this. But when you get there, you're thinking, I didn't think of the work of the government. We associate this with the work of the government. So, and that's why it's good to understand being aware of your personal biases when you developing a project. Whatever your experience look like, you're saying, okay, let me welcome somebody else's experiences of the possibilities of the outcome. Then your approaching situations with the willingness to learn and don't overcomplicate the process. There's a lot of time based on our experience. Some of us a little bit younger, some of us maybe 40s, 30s. Based on our experiences, we want to say, oh, well, this is the way it's supposed to be. Or we are so attention to detail. And I'll be mindful. I'm guilty of it as well. I'll have my idea, and I'm very detailed. So when it comes to detail, I'll make sure I kind of got to listen to other people. They kind of can live in the gray area sometimes. Me, I like to live in black and white. Either it's 1 + 1 is 2. I can't say, well, is there a possibility that number could equal up to a different number? So approach the situations with the willingness to learn. That means learn from others. And when you build a project, because someone may tell you, well, I don't know what the project should look like. So what happens? We get in the zone of being uncomfortable because we want to know the answers to the test. But it's really saying, I don't want the answer. I want the answer to evolve over time. I want the project to deliver the outcomes that's going to meet the organizational needs. And that's one thing in the military we learn. Like, for example, my experience of deploying an organization over to Afghanistan. Now, you may think, from not being really familiar with the government, you're thinking everything should be kind of like A, B, C. These are the things that you're supposed to do, deploy an organization. But when you deploy an organization, understanding that from the United States going to a different country, you're thinking everything should be told what you should do, when you should do it, when you get there, how things is going to happen. No, you kind of learn from field experience over time. So when me deploy an organization, even though may have been there, kind of understand the situation, there is a threat, but I got to think of, okay, I got a unit, an organization here. I got to look at those capabilities of my different teams. So me as a leader, I'm understanding I have to learn because I don't know everybody's ability. I don't know how proficient they are really in their task. And that's what you do with leadership. You're really going to capitalize on those abilities of your team. The saying, I don't need them to have my talent or my ability, but I really want to welcome their abilities over time to help this project become successful. And that's the same thing within an organization with leadership. As a leader, you look at your organization, you're looking at the outcomes, but what you're doing is you really capitalize on what those abilities of those teams to deliver a positive outcome on the other end. And then the last thing, don't be afraid to acknowledge you don't have all the answers. That's when I say that with being a leader, when in my younger days, I didn't really want to admit, oh, I didn't know everything, but as I evolved as the leader, I guess, that comes to wisdom, experience, and professional experience as well, to understanding I got to put myself in a position saying, I become a student again. I'm learning from other people throughout my team. And that's why it's so good when you develop your own team and develop a project, even though you are used to being in front, you being the leader, but a real leader is saying, I'm welcoming my experiences of those different people within my organization or within my team, because the team outcome, the positive outcome depends on the team, not of Carletta, not of such and such, but it's saying, how do we uncover or allow these problems, the root cause, to actually emerge to develop a positive outcome? Okay, next slide, please. Okay. And so this slide, I always want to leave, with something positive, empower, leadership and project management. This is my idea. Now, everybody have their own idea of what leadership and project management is. I say, empower to problem solve, shape change, and deliver equitable outcomes. Problem solving changes the world. And why I say that? Because every situation is not a problem. Situations become problems when they're unresolved. I believe everybody can agree with that. So when you're trying to problem solve, don't put yourself in a box and say, oh, this is a problem. No, it could be just a situation that's saying, if I do not confront or face this situation and saying, Okay, because over time it could become a potential problem, and as far as deter your team from reaching your outcome. Next slide, please. And were there any questions before Simi goes into her presentation? No.
All right, thank you, Carletta.
Okay.
So before I start with the Scrum and cybersecurity part of this workshop, Mike, I have a question for everyone. What is Scrum? How many of you know what Scrum, that word SCRUM, that is like the buzzword these days? What does that actually mean? And please feel free to unmute yourself and answer. And if you don't know, that's okay too.
I can go.
Sure,
Hi,
Kenny.
everyone. So Scrum, I would say Scrum is a framework, is one of the Agile frameworks under the Agile methodology, and it's basically used to, plan projects using iterations and sprints. In a nutshell.
That is absolutely right. And you use the word agile. Now, I want your thinking to go a little beyond what we are talking. What does agile means? Like it's an English term. Any ideas, any inputs? Because we use that so much in project management. So I
Mhm.
want, and I know that there are some students here as well. So I want to clarify it, what agile means when it comes to Scrum. So if anyone would like to answer that, or already know the answer.
Adaptable, um, being nimble, being flexible. I think I want to connect it to what Ms. Carletta had said earlier on. Like, don't just box it to one situation. Like, it's not a problem, but always find a way to evolve. Agile, just nimble, just being flexible and willing to, let me not go too deep now, inspect and see how you can make the process better. But just flexible, adaptable, and just it's not just standards. You're just following checklists. You
That
you
that is
adapt.
absolutely right. So both of you just answer that. What is Scrum? Now the students who are here have. Do you guys know about the rugby game? Anyone knows about that game? How is it played? Megan, I see that you're nodding. Do you want to unmute yourself and tell what is that game? Like
Um,
how is it done? How is it played? So we can
I
relate more.
I couldn't give you details. I can't say that I watched a few videos of it, and it makes the NFL look like a bunch of powder puffs, and it is very intense, and it is they're literally like locked together moving down the field, and it is terrifying and kind of amazing to watch. That's all I know about it.
That is absolutely right. So, what rugby game is that there is a small team given time, that this is the time that you are given. You're working together as a closed net group, and that is exactly what Scrum looks like. So, let me share my slides again so we can talk more about that. So, as we discussed right now, what is Scrum? Scrum is one of the most popular agile frameworks in use today. And then I asked you guys a question, what is agile? So let me try to explain, and we are not going to read all of this. I have just put this so I can share later in case anyone would like to read that. So agile is, as we discussed earlier, different variations, different approaches which are used in a development team. So now imagine there is a big organization, and I always take the organization that I have worked for. So if I think about IBM as an organization, there are thousands of projects working every day. Now there is a development team. In each group has a development team. They have a QA team. There are people who are working on the planning, requirement, designing, testing. So agile is nothing but a methodology how that particular development team is actually working on their deadlines. So as I mentioned, and I related to a sports called rugby. In rugby, a scrum is cluster of players trying to get the ball. So that is what the goal is of that game, that all the players are trying to get the ball. So if you think scrum into a play field or a sports field, all the players that are involved, they are pretty much trying to get to the goal that is for that project. Now, in the field of project management, when we talk about Scrum, it refers to brief meetings where team members come together to talk about their success. And I want to emphasize on brief meetings because entire Scrum cycle is just 4 weeks. 4 weeks means 1 month and the project is done and I move on to the next project. So when I was working as a Scrum Master, 4 weeks I'm on one project as a Scrum Master, finish it, move on to the next project. So I want you all to see this, that it is a brief meeting. The meetings are brief but concentrated. They result in expedited product delivery that boosts of higher quality. Now, I want you all to look at this screen for just 2 seconds. So you can, I know there are a lot of words in here and a lot of pictures, but I'm going to take a minute to explain how that 4 weeks play into role. So if you see here, there are a couple of things, Scrum team roles. So in a Scrum team, when I was working in a Scrum team, I was the Scrum Master. I work hand in hand with the product owner. So let's say there is a product, I'll just pick a product that we were building was we were working for a healthcare company called Express Script, and we had to create a interface for them wherein customers can go in and order their prescriptions online. So that was our product that we were working on. So I was sorry, I was working as a Scrum Master with directly product owner, and then there is a development team. So Scrum Master will be working together with these team as you see the circles here. So first thing that would happen is sprint planning will be happening. And what are sprints? So think about sprint when you are doing cross country or you're running or you're doing exercise. Sprint is like fast, you know. So that is how sprint planning is in Scrum as well. Then this is a very important part of Scrum, which is called daily Scrum. So there are daily stand-up meetings, and these stand-up meetings are that the team gets together in a room or virtual these days. Everyone will tell what I am working on today and is there any risk that I need to be aware of. Then second person will tell what I'm working today. So it's like a daily goal. And these stand-up meetings are very, very important in the Scrum cycle. So everyone knows who is working on what and if there are any issues that we need to work on immediately. And then there are sprint reviews and then sprint retro. So this cycle keeps going on for 4 weeks. Moving on to next slide, I do not want you all to be reading the slide at all. There are a lot of words, but these are very, very important words that we hear almost every day in a Scrum project. And the keywords, I have tried to put them in different colors. So I'm just going to emphasize on those keywords. So as I said, Scrum team is a very small team. Typically, there are like 3 to 9 people. Like in the projects that I have worked, in one of them there were 5 and in one there were 7. So very, very small team. As we said, like sports team, they're focused. They are just doing this for 4 weeks. But it could be, and the skills that they have are cross-functional. So everyone might have a different skill because that is what is required in this team. Then the second keyword that we use a lot in Scrum is called cycles, which I mentioned as sprint as well. This is a very, very powerful agile terminology that is used. So these are how many frames are happening. That means in a day, how much have we completed? In second sprint cycle, how much will we complete? So there are cycles that happen. This is like, we will have 3 days of one cycle, 4 days of one cycle. So that is what depends on the cycles. But very important thing on that, as we all know in all organization, there has to be one person making decisions because 7 people making decisions, it's not going to go anywhere. So only one person decides the work priorities, and that is generally a product owner. But sometimes Scrum Master also gets that right to make those decisions depending on how large the project is, if there are less product owners, if there are more than one product owner. So it all depends on the team size. The second keyword is uninterrupted. And what I mean by that is sprint planning is done, that in 3 weeks, this is what we have to complete. The entire team is uninterrupted on that, and then they will work towards that goal. Then they'll finish that cycle, they'll move on to the next cycle. The team gets market information and customer needs from either the customer directly or someone representing the customer. So as a Scrum team, always they need to understand what their market is and what the customer needs are, because Scrum team is working with the product team. So keep that in mind. Scrum team is pretty much trying to work and deliver what product team needs. So they need to understand that requirement. Only the Scrum team can decide how much work it can do in a given cycle. The product owner cannot come and tell, okay, in 3 days, you guys are going to give me, let's say, 4 piles of files or something. But the Scrum team, during their planning meetings, is when they decide as a Scrum team. That's why it is very small. Everyone knows who is working on what. Only the team decides how it can get the work done. So it's very much self-organized. No one comes and tell them. It's like ownership is on that person and he is doing that. The team gets clarity on why it is doing. The team gets clarity on why it is doing, what it is doing. So those are keywords. Why are we doing the cycle? Is it going to give us the result, what we want? The team regularly and immediately gets feedback. So let's say in one cycle, they completed a product, they will send it for feedback and immediately they will get feedback if they have to change something in the next sprint cycle. My favorite part as working as a Scrum Master in past is continuously improving and continuously changing and reviewing things. And I feel like, as a teacher as well, this resonates with me a lot, because continuously as teachers and we're working with students, they have so many different ideas. We are constantly reflecting, practicing, learning. So this is very, very key term. And then, as you all know, team collaborations. So the whole team collaborates while working on a customer need. And that keyword is called user story in technical terms. Blockers are immediately raised, and blockers in general term are called as risks as well. So risk and issues are immediately raised and discussed on a daily basis. Before I move on to the next slide, anyone has any questions so far on this? I know it's like a little technical here.
I do. You said that it lasts up to 4 weeks, because I have supposedly scrums every day, and the projects are just ongoing.
Yeah, so the entire Scrum cycle, when we say for working on a project, the timeline is generally 4 to 5 weeks. Like 4 week is the one which is like a successful Scrum, what they said, as per researchers. But those Scrum daily stand-up meetings is what happens every day. So inside that 4 weeks, we do have cycles inside that 4 weeks as well.
Okay, because I'm in a project that's supposed to last for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And every day I have to say how things are going.
So are you working as a Scrum? So is that the Scrum team assigned to that project? Is that what's going on?
No, we don't have they just call it a Scrum meeting, but we don't have a Scrum Master. The Scrum Master, I guess, is like the team leader.
Okay, so because
this is why I came here. I just wanted to know everybody talks about Scrum, and they keep saying, using the word, but are they really using it properly? I don't know. That's another thing.
So hearing to you, I have a feeling, and I don't know a lot about that project yet, but I have a feeling that, and there is a lot of confusion between, the project management and Scrum management. Scrum management is a team which helps the project management to reach their goals quickly in a short period of time. So if after listening that you have a project of 1 year, so that looks like to me more like a traditional or a waterfall project management, where they are working on a traditional project management, but that in no way is Scrum, but they are trying to implement little bit here and there of Scrum, like doing stand-up meetings. That could be Scrum point. So that is what I would say for that question.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Now, I want to say the roles we already discussed, but these are the 4 things that happens like in a 4-week cycle or 6-week cycle, depending on the large size of the product we are developing. So there are roles. So first thing that happens is everyone is assigned a role, and that is what we are going to do as well for today. You all will be assigned these roles when you go into your groups, and you're going to think for a few seconds as that role and take notes on that. Then there are artifacts. So these are main artifacts. Product backlog, sprint goal, what are sprint backlogs, if there are any blockers or if there are increments. Now, I know I didn't put on that. Increments is pretty much maybe we are already done with this development piece. We can move on to something else quickly than we had thought. So those are like incremental things that happen. And the meetings that happen is daily scrum. Sprint planning is the first one that happens because we have to plan everything, daily scrum, then sprint reviews, and then, retrospective and reflections happen as well. And this picture shows pretty much, so product owner and scrum master work hand in hand. They tell us, okay, what is required, and scrum master will say, okay, I will put together a team together, and this is how our team will work on. These are the sprint cycles. After every cycle, we will send it for review. Your team will give us the feedback. If we have any changes, we will go and fix it back. And then there is the team who works on that. Now, I know with visual world to the remote learning and everything, this is very hard. But when I used to work as a Scrum Master, I had a big board in a conference room, and this was my favorite part. So what are the to-dos for today? Who is doing what and what is done? And when we met again tomorrow, we will see that whatever is done, and so these were like sticky notes. So think about that to do at the end of your sprint cycle will be empty because everything to do should start going into different buckets there. But this is a very, very useful tip when you're planning for any kind of project in cybersecurity or any kind of project. Scrum Board is very, very helpful as a Scrum Master. Now, as I mentioned earlier, so the timeline, this is like a typical Scrum project that looks like. It is 28, if you take duration in days, it's about 28 to 31 days. So in first 1 to 7 days, project kickoff would happen, planning would happen, development implementation, and then the results would be provided. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I'm not sure if there are any questions in the chat going on. Okay. Do you have any questions so far on this before we move on to our next part?
I just had a question regarding the reflections. Would that, and I guess that it kind of was a little bit answered on that last slide, I think, but is that typically just at the end of each of those sprint periods that there would be reflections, or do those kind of happen throughout with the Scrum meetings?
That would happen throughout the Scrum meetings as well, because that's the purpose of that daily meeting. Let's say if as a group we are meeting, you would know, okay, Nate, you're working on this today. Do you have any issues, or are you figuring any issues that you will foresee for today? And then you'll say that, yes, I need help from maybe, Consuelo for working on this. So that is like everyday reflection. And stand-up meetings, like not just as a Scrum, like in our school as well, leadership has started doing the stand-up meetings every day as well. Okay, are there any burning issues in the school that's happening? Or are there anything that we have to deal as an organization today? So daily Scrum meetings are a very great way for any organization just to, first of all, get people together, because when 5 people are together, they will at least say hi, hello, and talk, because that is very important key working as a team member as well. I'm going to share my screen again because I wanted to show one certification here. And again, I will send this slide after our meeting today. So I would say that being a Scrum Master is not an easy task. It comes with a lot of responsibilities because it is so quick that by the time you're done, you move on to the other one. And there are a lot of challenges which you have to solve quickly. And there are some courses, like if anyone would be interested to become a Scrum Master or, CSM certification, there are some links I have provided here as well, if anyone would be interested specifically to become a Cybersecurity Scrum Master as well. So what we are going to do next, before we go on to the roles, I wanted to show this for a second. And I know there are a lot of colors in this. This is one of the dashboard from one of the real projects in cybersecurity, which was done under Scrum. So I was part of that project. So let me try and explain this a little bit, if it makes sense. So what we were doing is in that cybersecurity project, we had to see how many patches, like think about a big organization again, like Google or Microsoft or IBM. I'm sure there are so many computers, so many servers in the company. There have to be patches that have to be run on, regular basis so that viruses don't come in and they're not hacked. The company is not hacked from security reasons. So we had a compliance team, and I was part of that compliance team who would do audit on the processes. They will tell if there are any security risk, and then if there are any patches required for that. So if you look here, this is an incident management dashboard, and this was active wherein we could see every day every part of the organization was divided into different systems. And then in each system, it will tell how many of them are critical, like how many systems are at a critical point, because these came out from the Scrum cycles. We could immediately see that, okay, this system has some patch or compliance issue which has to be fixed immediately, because that's why they are in red. If they are in green, great, you're doing great, you don't have to worry about that. But if they are in red, that has to be fixed immediately. And this incident management is again for same systems. What is critical, what is high, what is medium. So when we work in as Scrum Master, we do have a lot of dashboards that come along too, because since there is so much data going in. So every day after Scrum meeting, as a Scrum Master, I used to enter, okay, what is the important thing, what's happening, and then this dashboard turned out of that saying that these are critical, and I will send it back to the development team and they will go and fix that because these are high critical things to be done today. Now, what we're going to do in breakout rooms is, and some of these STEM students who are there, you might have worked on this problem, but we are going to change this a little bit. I want everyone to think about a problem. Like teenagers these days, they work on their jobs, they go and, maybe do some lawn mowing, shoveling, and they get money out of that. So they are doing a lot of different things just to get money. So for a second with me, think about a problem that if we are able to digitize money made from alliances, chores, summer jobs, and create something for teenagers, but the twist in that is that no one should be able to hack it. That is where the cybersecurity part will come. It should be safe and secure and fun and easy to use. So when we will go into breakout rooms, we will be working into different roles, and probably we might just need one breakout room. If that is, we'll see how many participants are there. When you each go into your breakout room, these are some of the questions that you will be thinking about. Like first question could be, do we need a web app or an app? Will it work on all devices or not? And then who is going to use this audience app? So who is your target audience for that? Then you will break it down into features. Like let's say if it's for Apple phone and if it's an app, what are the 4 top features you would need? And then after that, what are maybe 2 more we can add to that? And then you're going to estimate how much time do you think it would take to create all of this app or the features, and what things should be done first, what should be done second. So you're going to prioritize that. And as a team, then we will come back and each team will share that you were given a problem. So you're working as a development team. Each person is having a role. So the Scrum Master would be pretty much planning who is doing what. There would be one note taker who can either create a quick presentation or a Google document, whatever works with the group, to take all the notes that's happening in that group. And then we will come back and we will share our findings. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and let's see how many participants are there.
Hi, Simi. I will jump off so I don't get get thrown into a breakout room. Unfortunately, I have another meeting at 11. So, but thank you so much. This was great.
All right, thank you, Kansela. So looks like we have a smaller group. So maybe we can stay in this main room, and I will assign. I will tell which roles each one is in, and you can pick your roles as well. So let me put a slide which shows the roles here. So let's start. So the roles that I want people to pick are, I want one person to be the customer. Who would like to be the customer? Anyone would like, and customer's job is pretty much keep giving things, keep doing this, nagging, and you don't like this. So that is your job for.
I can do that. I can nag.
All right. So Megan, you're going to be the customer.
Okay.
Now I need another product owner, and Carletta and I are not going to participate in this because we just want to see how the flow is going. So anyone want to be product owner, and your job is going to be saying that, okay, this is a product we are building, and then we need Scrum team to help us build that. Come on, you get to build something cool. Who
I
wants
can
to
be
build
product
something?
owner.
All right, Nell, thank you. Then we need a Scrum Master who would be working with the product owner and then deciding in their team and maybe doing a quick daily stand-up to say, okay, you're working on what feature are you working on, and all those things. Anyone would like to volunteer for Scrum Master?
I could give that a try.
All right, Nate, thank you. Then we need some stakeholders, and stakeholders could be that they are working with the customer, or they are the end users actually. So I want some like one teenager who will be using that, and I know we have teenagers here, so anyone who is like the real customer for this.
I can do that.
All right, Tyler, you would be the real person, and when you're listening, you need to make sure that you're taking notes, that is it making sense what they all are building, will you even be using that or not. And then rest of everyone will be the team members who are going to, I need one note taker as well, actually. Who can be the note taker? Anyone would volunteer? Merlin, okay, would you like to share one document here in chat or presentation?
Oh, okay. All right, I can do that. So just writing in a Word document?
Anything that works for you. I mean, we don't want to make it overcomplicated. Anything that works so that everyone who is saying what is there. So if you want to write the roles, Nate is a Scrum Master.
One moment, please. Do you see my screen?
Could just put it in chat too.
Sure.
Oh, okay. I thought it was I had to share on the screen. That's not what you want.
You
Okay,
can
I'll do it on the chat.
Yeah, you can share actually on a screen, so then everyone can see, the
Okay.
process as well.
Okay, perfect. So, oh, but I'm not allowed to share.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead now.
Okie dokie. I just need to open a Word file. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
It's lunchtime here. I was eating at the same time, so.
Oh, sorry.
Caught.
All right, so we have many roles. The product owner.
The Scrum Master. Customer.
Yeah, forgot about the customer.
And then everyone else who is left are team members or development team, whatever.
Stakeholders. You didn't have the stakeholders?
No, I think we'll just go with the customer because we don't have enough people here. So we'll just go with the team.
Let me just put that on the slide. Oh, I already wrote customers. So I have everybody? Team members. I'm sorry. I should have put, should I do that in a table? I guess it will be easier.
Sure. I mean, whatever
Yes.
is easier for you. Sure.
Or I can just leave it like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And while, so you will be the note taker. Everyone who is saying something, or if there any idea comes in, you will be the note taker, and then the team will be presenting.
What was Meg's role again?
So Meg, you are the product owner, right?
Oh, I was a customer, but
Oh, you were the customer. Sorry. Yep.
Okay, and I'm the product owner, and then then Tyler is what?
Tyler is pretty much the end customer who would be using, so pretty much the user role. So he is like, testing, user testing is what we should put that.
Do I have to put the name of everyone who's doing what? Or it's not necessary?
I don't think we need that. Like if this is a smaller group, so
Perfect.
we should be good. All right. So as a customer, Meg, you're going to come and you're going to tell the team, okay, hey guys, there is a new project and this is going to happen. And then Scrum Master will ask questions based on, what we discussed. And then the team will pitch in and they will tell what features are required.
Okay, so should I just repeat what you said about we need a web app for tracking
Sure.
the dollars?
Mhm.
Okay, so we need an app of some type so that non-adults can track like the money that they have coming in, and it has to be very secure and easy to use so that we can have a wide audience who will use it consistently. Is that good?
So Nate, as a Scrum Master, now what things come in your mind, and we need to take notes of that. So what do you think come in your mind that, as a Scrum Master, what all things you want to know from the product owner? So give it a thought and ask some questions.
I guess the scope and the level of accessibility, whether we're looking at more like a dedicated app or maybe more like a web app. I don't know. Is that I don't know. Is that kind of what we're getting at here?
Sure. Megan, are you able to share, or do you want me to share a document? I know that your connection is getting that. Do you want me to just add it real quick, if that helps?
And Simi, if I can add something real quick with Nate. Okay, and with the process, Nate, and think of it like this, right? And like you have the needs analysis that's already developed. Now you're kind of saying you're identifying your knowns and then versus the unknowns. So if you can kind of like, it can be guided in that direction, because sometimes we kind of get in this area like, I don't know what I need to do. So kind of determine, okay, you already know the need is you saying, okay, develop a web app, right? Then now you're saying it's going to be, what is your targeted population? What are those capabilities? Determine those capabilities. So these are the things that you can say, okay, this is what we do know right now. Now the unknowns will be, kind of emerge along the way of that project. So I think that will kind of help you think about it, kind of saying, okay, what do we know right now?
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Marilyn, do you want me to share my screen? I know it's lagging. Do you want me to share my screen? So then we all can be seeing that. If you want to stop sharing, I can share my screen. Thank you. All right, so going back to Nate, one more thing I would like to add. So when the product, and I'm just going to take notes here so we all can see. So as a Scrum Master, think about something. First question would be, okay, what is the product? I want all the team members to be, wow, it gets really slow when I share my screen. That's weird. So we all know what the product would be. So as a team, decide which product. Do you all think we need an app for this? Something should be like app on Apple Store. So I want all other team members to be pitching in something in this idea. How does the product should look like, the end result? And Tyler, you will be a quiet observer for right now, but take your own notes, which you can share at the end.
I guess we need to know what assumptions we're making about who the user is. I mean, are they, do they all have iPhones already, or do they only have access to their Chromebooks? And so I think that's a question that we have. Like, so what assumptions are we going to make about that end user?
Okay.
I mean,
I feel like web
don't
apps
know.
are the way to go, because that way you're not tied into downloading something, and there's more accessibility and there's more like sameness across different, like how they're accessing.
Okay. Ryan, what do you think from cybersecurity perspective, specifically like secure perspective? What should this team be thinking about for this product?
So one thing I was thinking about is since we also need it to be reliable, maybe we host this application on like AWS or Google's equipment, because they also like secure those very well. Let me think.
Okay, while Ryan is thinking that, now let's move on to, and Nate, this will be a question for you. So from, as a Scrum Master, when you are talking to product owner, because they just told you, okay, you know, this is the product and this is going to happen. So who was the product owner? As a product owner, what do you think you are going to come and tell the Scrum Master? Nell, you were the product owner. So what do you think you're going to come and tell this entire team what you heard from the customer?
So, so on what we just described, because I do have like a cybersecurity concern about what I just heard, but I don't know if that's my role. So, but I mean, making the assumption that it's going to be secure on AWS because it's AWS is inaccurate, right? Because we're responsible, they're responsible for their data centers not being breached or burning down, but we're responsible for the way that it's written and making sure that that data is secure, both at rest and in transit. So I agree that AWS is a better place to probably store it so that we don't have to have our own servers to take care of that, especially hopefully if we're getting a large audience, but we're still responsible for all of that cybersecurity.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So Nate, as a Scrum Master, when you think about, okay, your team has to develop something, it's not on web, it might look like an app. What would be your question to the product owner or the customer in order to finish and deliver that product? So think a little in that term and see what you can get with.
So we've discussed already most likely using a web app, like web interface, rather than a dedicated app, just for greater accessibility and all that. Is that something that I would want to confirm with the customer or the product manager, or just assume and go that direction? I imagine that's probably something I should check on.
So this is like a key for any kind of project management, never assume. So if you as a Scrum Master have decided in your group that this is what you're going with, you should go back to the product owner, and then product owner will go back to the customer, or in some organizations, Scrum Master can directly go back to the customer as well and saying that, hey, this is what we are thinking and this is the timeline we will deliver in. So we make sure that they are okay with that. So now,
Tyler,
sorry, go ahead.
so how would you feel about it being a web app? Is that something that you would access to keep track of what you use or what you've
I
earned?
don't know. I guess for me, I would prefer it to be at least like a progressive web app where it can be pinned as like an app icon on my phone, because I don't have to go into a browser and remember a whole URL. I can just click the icon.
Okay. So you think that web interface app is the one that you would be happy with?
Like a progressive web app or a actual native app, not a web interface necessarily.
Okay, so I like that word. So your end customer is saying progressive. Now I want every other team member to think what progressive would look like in terms of cybersecurity, or in terms of creating this app. How would that look like? Just visualize that and give some features. What do you think?
So with Venmo, there's a lot of like public things, like you can see what other people are doing. So that's something that would want to be avoided with these non-adult people. But I think Venmo has some good features where it does make it kind of social, but you'd have to have that in like a protected type of way. So like they get to see their peers working on it, but only like those acceptable peers that like their parents allow.
That's a very good point, and that takes us back to one of the slides I had mentioned, like researching, so that as a Scrum team, continuous research back and forth goes as well. That okay, is anyone else doing that? What does the market looks like? So that's a very good point, Megan. I want everyone to think about a little bit about timeline. So now the product owner came and said, okay, we do need that. As a Scrum team, what do you think that, and I will just put 4 weeks that we have. So the Scrum team, how would you like to divide these 4 weeks into? And your fourth week is pretty much last couple of days are creating, testing, providing stuff. How do you think you would like to divide these 4 weeks?
Well, I think the first priority would be getting the infrastructure in place. So, looking at, what I guess cloud provider would be using for the infrastructure. And that's actually one more thing I wanted to confirm with the customer, if that was something that they were okay with, or if that's something that they wanted a specific infrastructure used, something other than cloud. But I'd say like the first priority of work would maybe like, again, I don't know if at this point would be dedicating a certain or allocating a certain amount of time to this, but first several days or week, putting together the infrastructure and then building on from there, going from infrastructure to the back end, then progressing on to kind of user management and user interface, user experience and things like that as we go forward in the process. Is that kind of how we would break that up?
Okay,
I wonder if we could then just call the first week like consulting with the customer and consulting research, and then moving on to the building in the second week.
So I would, as a Scrum Master and doing real Scrum projects, if we spend that entire 1 week just, researching and consulting, at the end from second week, you will feel like, oh my God, I don't have time. So,
yeah, so like I was thinking like 1 or 2 days for the consulting and research.
right. So with, my experience, I always tell everyone that researching and consulting, we should not spend that much time, like 1 week. Maximum, I would say like 2 to 3 days, wherein you have the entire thing done, everything is planned, and then you are moving on. So week 1 could be consulting, researching 2 to 3 days, and then what next do you guys think? Bukola, would you like to add anything, or Kenny, would you like to add anything? Marilyn, would you like to add anything?
Yes, how big do you want the app to be in the chat?
Oh, sorry, I was not watching the chat. How big you want? That's a very interesting.
Well, that was in terms of storage, but I guess that's a detail.
Right. Yeah, that's important, because if your phone cannot even handle that, and your, everything, or if your app cannot handle that, that's a very good point. Anything else that you guys think we have missed in that?
Well, I guess we have to make sure that we have the most important features first, and focusing on developing those, and those other things go in the backlog.
Okay, so now let's focus a little on that. So what are the features? So let's list all the features that you all think we would need. And Tyler, we would need your inputs on that as well. As a customer who is going to get this app on your phone probably in 4 weeks from now, what all things would you like to see in that app?
I want to see it have dark mode. That's like crucial.
Dark mode. And why do you say that?
It's like your system's like light or dark mode. It's nice to be able to have it integrate with that. It's just a convenience thing. I want to see 2-factor authentication for security purposes. And I want to see some sort of payment integration. So like, is it going to be tied to my bank, my PayPal account, some sort of card that you have with it? Google Pay, Apple Pay, whatever. I want to see payment integration.
All right, I'm going to stop you right there. And I know there were some people on this call who were interested specific to cybersecurity part of that. And Ryan, I know that you were interested for that. So now think what the teenager said here, payment integration. Now, as a cybersecurity expert on the team, I want you to think what are the features that you will specifically look at that, cybersecurity safe features.
Sorry, I was on mute. When you called me out, I don't know. I was talking on mute. I didn't unmute myself. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. Sure. Would you like to add anything, Kenny?
Sure. So the two-factor authentication, I would think that's part of cyber, right? That's part of the security.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would just like Tyler, was it Tyler or Nate that said dark mode? I would just say the look and feel. I would just put all that on the look and feel. So that could also go with dark mode, light mode, the font, whatever. The app, also making it, I don't know, user-friendly, no jargon. That way anyone can easily, making it easily accessible, or making it easy to understand. Let me say easy, user-friendly. Let's just leave it at user-friendly. And what else? And having it the availability of it, right? I think that would fall under the cyber as well. Availability of the app, making it available on all Play stores for Android users, iPhone users, whoever.
Right. And one thing along with availability, I also put in here cost. Okay, it's in the market, but can everyone buy it? Is it commercial enough? Like, everyone has access to it. Will anyone even use our app if it's too costly? So we have to think about cost perspective too. Ryan, I want you to think a little bit about payment integration part that Tyler said, because that's really key for the customer.
And I think Merwin said something about that in the chat because she was talking about the data needs to be encrypted.
Yes, absolutely. I think that'll be really important because if we're going to be tying in bank accounts with this application, it'll of course need to be encrypted. Then just the other part of that is we do need to get the app to interface with like any accounts that the individuals using it may have.
Okay. Now, the last part I want to talk about, I think we have covered everything in there. Now, what can go wrong? Like we all are talking about, let's have this, let's have that. But doing all this that we discussed above, what all things can go wrong? And what I'm trying to target here is what are our blockers, or what are the issues, or what are the risks that it's not safe. So I want everyone to think about that for a few seconds and provide some inputs.
I think one of the blockers is, again, that integration. Like we have to pick which devices we're going to use first based on my kind of watching development, like through Kickstarter or whatever, and people like trying to create apps for use. They usually have to pick a platform. So, that availability issue is something you have to consider. You have to basically choose, are you going to start with an iPhone or Android? And because my understanding is like they don't overlap. So, you're basically developing two different projects. And so I think the device is a huge one.
Okay. Anyone else would like to add?
Yeah, somebody mentioned, talked about the 2FA part, but I guess it will be also important if we protect the app against brute force attacks. So if after a certain number of attempts, it should be blocked from anyone to get in.
Okay.
Going along with that, we could also make it so the user needs to have a secure password that would be hard to brute force.
Now, Tyler or Megan, thinking as a customer or thinking as an end user, what do you guys think that you would be most worried about security of that app?
As the parent of a user, I would be most worried about their personal information getting out or them being exposed to malicious actors.
Yeah, from a security standpoint, am looking into the AAA of the app. And if you guys don't know what that is, that's the it's authentication, access, and availability. And I just think those all three need to be you guys need to be very focused on that.
All right, so that's great. I'm going to stop here for a second now so we can see what just happened in last 20 minutes, what we have been doing. So Carletta, would you like to say like what we just did and what everyone was saying and what happened, and then we're going to link it back to what we did? Do you want to do that, Carletta?
Sure. First, I want to like go through with each of you, right? And I'm going to ask these questions. What was your role? How did you fulfill your role? And did you meet the team's expectations? Because when I look at the leadership, the leadership framework of developing a project and meeting the needs analysis of a product owner or delivering a product, that's one expectation when, Simi talked about those stand-ups. That's really important to really measure the progress along the way. So that's why I want you to kind of reflect on that. We can begin with Tyler. And again, we kind of reflect on, identify what was your role? How did you fulfill your role within this project that we were uncovering? And then do you feel like you met the team's expectations?
So my role was the end user. So I was just specifying what I thought would be needed and how I wanted it to act. And I think I did that because I brought up a lot of the things I wanted: dark mode, two-factor authentication, payment integration, and made sure that that was kind of heard.
Okay. Okay, and Ryan?
Yeah, so my role was just a Scrum team member. Specifically, I was fulfilling my role by bringing up the security aspects that this app would absolutely need to have. And I think I met my team's expectations because I brought up some important pieces of app security.
Okay. Thank you. Nell?
So I was the product owner, and I think what my job was supposed to be was to kind of make sure that what was going on in the discussion was really focused on the product and the limitations of that product. And so I think in that regard, I was able to contribute to the team by pointing out, responsibilities for security and where they fell, as well as expectations that we could actually have in 4 weeks in terms of what kind of product we could develop.
Okay. And Marilyn?
All right. Well, I was a team member. Well, I think I was cheating a little bit and trying to get into everybody's role. But I was trying to make sure that the various areas were analyzed.
Okay. And did you feel like you met the team's expectations in fulfilling that role?
I tried my best.
Okay. And then also Meg.
I was the customer, but I was also all up in everybody's business. For me, it was hard to remember the things that I want as a customer, and also to think about the limitations of the people who are building it. So it was kind of hard, just in this moment, to build empathy for both sides. So I found that difficult. Yes, you want dark mode, but also, is all of your information being stolen? You kind of got to do both things. And I found that kind of hard to think both ways at the same time.
Okay. And who else did I miss? Did I miss someone?
Nate.
So I was the Scrum Master, and so yeah, I was the kind of the connecting piece between the product manager and the rest of the Scrum team members. And so just trying to lay out reasonable expectation for work with the team members in the time given, and the goals that we had to achieve to meet the customer's needs.
Okay. And you mentioned one really good word as far as the reasonable. You said reasonable. And that's one thing, you know, being a Scrum Master, a leader, measuring progress, is saying what's realistic, what's attainable, and how do we deliver that product to the customer. And that's one thing that when I look at the team, and I'm gonna throw out some questions, and I want you, you know, someone to, you know, you can answer the questions, whoever feel like they can answer this question, but really understand what happened from the beginning all the way to delivering this product. So what was the intent of the project?
So the intent of the project was to get a payment application for teenagers, integrating their parents in the process as well. At least that's what I understood. And then have it, you know, just be accessible, secure, and yeah.
And what were those expectations from the product owner?
So the product owner talked a lot about definitely some user experience things that they wanted to see, you know, in terms of, you know, not preferring for it to be a native app, preferring, you know, dark mode, but then also some security aspects as well, two-factor authentication, you know, immediately right in the first iteration, and, you know, payment integration, things like that. So yeah, those are some of the things that the customer was wanting.
Okay. And then also the targeted customer, what the project was targeting, which customers?
So what I see the customer as would be the users of the application themselves, so the teenagers, and with kind of a secondary customer, I guess you could say, would be the parents involved, or any other, you know, the customers of the teenagers. So those that are paying the teenagers, you know, for whatever, you know, work they're doing.
Okay. And then, and this is not just for you to answer all the questions, but I would like the other team members to answer them as well. But to look at, okay, the timeline we determined was like 4 weeks, right, for the project. So somebody else talk me through what could happen first week, first 3 days, and then all the way until that last week of delivering that product.
Go ahead.
Like,
Fatima.
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I've talked too much. You go.
Okay, so I think what we just did now was kind of like a user story, just trying to describe what the customer wanted. And I apologize if I didn't like add anything in there. I was just trying not to jump in too much. One of the things I wanted to put in there when we're speaking was language. To consider language, maybe it could be French, Spanish, Hindi, because parents, you know, different, could be across, could be international. So that's another factor now with students. It's kind of global now. But anyway, back to the question that Dr. Coletta asked about just the timing, like how much time you want to put into planning, who's involved in that. And, you know, like one of the main, the pillars of Scrum is to be transparent, which we did. Everyone is on board. Inspect, making sure that you're reviewing it as the days go on or weeks go on. So whatever we need to address, we can address and adapt. Like Dr. Basu has said earlier on, adaptability, that's what it's all about. And as we're doing that, we're being able to be nimble to change that. And the product owner, is the main person, not like the project manager, but it's like the person that kind of has responsibility, always making sure that we have the product goal at the back of our mind to make sure that we're still on board and we're not over time. Scrum Master, making sure that he's doing what he needs to do, that we're not going over the time frames that we have. So he's not becoming like an elongated project, just remembering what Scrum is all about. Something big, trying to make it small and see how we can do it, and then apply it long term. It's not a project once going 1 year. We're just trying to time box it per se. And courage, and I'm using terms now, just being able to speak up when you feel like involving all team members, collaboration is key. So when you're seeing that one person is not speaking as much, find a way to bring them in. They may have a solution. They may actually have, I like what Dr. Coletta has said. I'm a note taker. It talks about not everything is a problem, because Bacol is not speaking or because Meg is not speaking doesn't mean it's a problem. It may just be that it's situational. Meg just speaks better at certain instances. So that way we're able to know what we are, we can all collaboratively come together to resolve the thing. And the last part is, retrospect comes at the end, but like as we're going, we're seeing what the issue is, and Scrum Master is there as a coach, like a guy, like kind of like what Dr. Coletta is doing now. You're kind of letting us see, okay, how did you do? You're not trying to say, well, Meg, you're not talking enough, or Tyler, you're speaking to, Bacola, you're speaking too much. How can we, like you said earlier in project management, I'm looking at my notes again, I'm cheating. How can we keep seeing, how can we approach adaptability? How can we do better? What can we learn to make sure that this process works? So I think it was good what we did so far is just learning and learning ourselves, or learning about the team and how we can affect the product, and knowing that the pivotal part of this ingredient in this whole thing are the people, and how we interact in terms of making sure that it comes to fruition. Like no one is managing anybody. We're just holding each other accountable. No one is in charge. That's the thing with Scrum people kind of struggle with. Who's in charge? Like everyone is responsible for their own thing, but it's also trying to bring everybody together. And not take too much time, I kind of applied it to my kids during this whole 2020 issue. It's just like, how are you doing with your time with like your project? How are you? I got crazy the first week trying to do everything. You're a teenager now, you're 13. 4 weeks, we're gonna try this new method. You take notes, I'm the product owner, but you're your Scrum Master, and every week you're seeing, I'm using a notebook, is it efficient? Do I need to download an app? Is that more efficient? And you're coming back and making sure, so you're not waiting to the end of the whole thing, 4 weeks, and say, Mom, I couldn't turn on my projects because I was not a good note taker, but like that continuously inspecting, continuously being open, not judging, collaboration. I'm going to use the words again, collaboration, being open, courage to speak up, and what Dr. Coletta did, like coaching. So we all kind of in this together. I'm going to stop right now because my mom had this coming on.
No, that's very good. I really appreciate that. And that's what I will kind of close with that kind of what you all done is really kind of learn from one another and really respect everybody's experiences along the way. And that's what makes a great Scrum team. Understandably, we go with the title Scrum Master, but that Scrum Master is really, the part of the team. It's like the we team. It's like we're going all in one direction. It's not about my role to kind of differentiate your role, to saying, I respect your experience. I respect what you bring to the team. And I believe when you walk away from this experience today and think about it, it's really a we team. How do we take this big picture and deliver this product, an exceptional product that each and every person on that team was able to collaborate, was able to deliver. And now let's, really kind of say, hey, we did a great job. Now we're on to the next project and we get better over time.
All right, thank you. And let me share the last thoughts here with you all. So I want everyone to leave with this thought. So the thought process, mentality, and exercise we participated in today is something called Agile. Because as we discussed in the starting, we started with, it's like a different kind of variations, different mindset, how people are behaving. So more than just a way of working, it's a way of behaving, culture, and mindset. At its core, Agile is all about innovation. It's about dealing with uncertainty through incremental work delivered by self-organized and motivated teams. And I truly believe that this team was really motivated. And thank you so much for following along, because I know we were not dealing with a real problem in real Scrum, but we were trying to see each and every process, how it will look like if we were given 4 weeks. So probably we should ask some company to give us a Scrum project now, and we all can tackle it together one day. Anyone has any questions? I know that we are running a little behind. Anyone has any questions for me or Dr. Carletta?
I have a quick question. Yeah.
Go ahead, Kenny.
Yeah. So you, I think towards the beginning of the session, you had talked about how to apply Scrum. You have some programs or some, I don't know, materials to share or something like that, of how to apply Scrum to the cyber world. And I'm really interested in that. So please, if you can share that, I'm kind of coming to the end of my contract currently as we speak. So I'm looking for something else. I'm looking for work right now. So I'm just trying to see how else I can market myself and what else I can learn to apply to my career here. So.
Sure, and I have shared my email ID here in the chat. So if you can keep a note of that and send me an email, so that way you know specifically what each person needs. I can send some resources, or I can connect you to actually someone, because I do have a team of friends and colleagues who currently work as Scrum Master as well. So I can connect you to someone. So please make sure you take my email ID and send me an email, or you can connect on LinkedIn as well. I am on LinkedIn too, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn too.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. Thank you.
So I had a question. I worked on a contract where they supposedly used Agile and Scrum. It was a terrible experience for me. And supposedly they're like, I kind of felt like, because I do not like to be micromanaged. And I felt like all I did all day long was say what I was going to do, what I'm doing now, and what I did today. And I never had time to really work. And so I'm just kind of curious about like your opinion on like how that process is supposed to work, because I never felt like I had time to like actually do anything, because I was always reporting what I'd done, what I was going to do, and what I was doing right now, which was mostly just sitting in meetings telling everybody what I was doing.
Yeah, I have to be true here with you. When I started and I have done, I should say, about 12 Scrum projects in my experience. When I started the first time, now that is exactly how I felt. I was like, I have no clue who is doing what. This is so less time. But when we talked about reflection and making impact, so every single project we had reflections, and those reflections were used in the next one and the next one. So that is where you start learning, oh, okay, this is how it should look like. Because when we jump into directly, okay, we have to do things and report to someone, it's total that mind shift that has to be done. And that's okay if you're feeling that way. That is exactly how everyone who starts with Scrum feels that. And there is so much confusion between Scrum and project management still in organizations. So that's why I keep saying that, you know, you have to go through at least minimum two Scrum projects to feel a little bit that you know how you can start with Scrum. So you have to go
through. That makes me feel better, because that was part of my other problem. Is like I felt like people were frustrated because I didn't get it, right? And I'm just like, but they didn't get it either, right? Like they were still trying to figure out like how to set up their Post-it notes, like, you know, what categories are we supposed to have and all of that. And so I just kind of felt like it was unfair, like that I was supposed to like be on board and know exactly how it was supposed to be happening when it constantly was changing, right? I mean, like there wasn't a structure. And
so one reflection I can give on that is probably, and I don't know if you can go back to that team, it always helps if you do a closing reflection. Hey, this is what we all felt, this is what did not work, and this is what worked. That would put the team at ease as well, that this is how it was supposed to, and this is what happened. So that is like a reflection for that entire team again, because if you do back with that team, they exactly know, hey, this is what we did first time. We should not be repeating that the second time.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to add a comment, like just to say, and after this, I'm going to stop. Scrum is applicable to anything in daily life. I did not know that. Kenny is my I'm gonna put her on the spot. She's like my career coach, pusher. She's one that talked me into Scrum. I said, no, what is Scrum? Talking about cyber, I'm new at it. And it's applicable to anything you do. Like just go on a limb. Like I've seen people who are new. I don't know how new everybody is into it here, but it's applicable to almost anything, vacations and a real life of how I've done kind of cyber. I'm very new to it. I'm just studying and catching up on it. But real life, lost my grandmother a few weeks ago. We're planning a funeral and it's international, right? Other side of the world. Made it a Scrum project, you know, like with 6 kids, who's taking more responsibility. Then there's a cyber piece that just came up 2 days ago. My mom's WhatsApp account got hacked, right? We're putting information in this chat box about bank accounts, people transferring money. So everything is all kind of interwoven. At first I thought cyber is just so extreme, but they're all kind of interwoven in our daily lives. Like I would just challenge everyone, like if there's anyone, a friend that has a project or that has a small business, go in there and just kind of say, let me try to apply Scrum for you here. Like it really does help to make complex issues very, very, it kind of focuses it and makes it easier to implement.
Thank you. All right, if we don't have any other questions, we are going to close the session for today. Again, thank you everyone for joining. And if you'll have any questions, please email me. If I don't have the answer, I promise I will connect you to someone who might be able to answer. So thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you so much for leading this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was really great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. I learned a lot.
Thank you. It was great. Learned a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be connecting on LinkedIn if that's okay with everyone that's available.
That is. Thank
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much.
you. Bye.